Here's RJ. He's talking about a robotics club. He belongs to it after school.
You can see the hard part. The fun part really comes from everybody working on it together and making it a social experience. That was what really sparked me in the beginning.
That's one answer. Let's turn to Lanye. She's from Chicago.
You need a hater and you need a motivator. A hater, like the person that putting you down, that's something you can't do it, that's your hater. And then you feel motivated to like prove them wrong, and then your motivator is a person that, you know, supporting you. So you kind of try your best on everything so you can make your motivator proud.
Tashina in New York told me that the climactic moments of competition were what made her want to keep working hard at something.
Competing at the end, there's always something kind of bigger than when you're performing, even though you feel the same way and stuff. I think the competition gets me more motivated because I know that in the end I might win or lose, so it makes me like try harder.
When Uma was in the 7th grade, she hated to read. She told me it took her 30 minutes to read an 8-page book. But in 9th grade, a girlfriend turned her on to vampire books.
One of my friends, whatever she liked, I liked. And she was like, oh my God, you have to read this book. And I'm like, I do not want to read that because it's so thick. However, because I became so into that series, I was in the library almost every week. And I was talking to the librarian. I was like, can you get me these books?
So by the time Uma was in 10th grade and she was talking to me, she was reading James Baldwin. Here's Dan, who on his 8th grade, for his 8th grade physical education class, the principal had a class in ballroom dance. This is what Dan says about that.
You're matching with the music perfectly and you feel a reward inside you. It's not just a reward that's clear like, oh, I'm winning the competition, we get a trophy. It's like almost like an inner trophy that you have. It's an inner win for you that you've overcome something of yourself and you feel proud of yourself for doing it.
That's a school that has a team that tries out for that Mad Hot ballroom competition. So in different ways, each of those kids is talking about the kind of motivation that comes from inside us, not from people telling us what to do. And every single one of those kids had a story to tell about what or who led them to value the task, and what or who helped them expect that they could succeed at it. Finally, we saw one more absolutely critical ingredient when any of them reached a high level of performance, and that element was practice. But it wasn't just any practice, it turned out. It was a certain kind of practice which researchers call deliberate practice. And like most of us, kids get the idea of this special kind of practice because they've experienced it for themselves. And all kinds of things they learn, sometimes after school, sometimes in school. For example, let's listen to Takara compare her favorite hobby, which is cartooning, to getting better at softball, which is her favorite sport.
I draw cartoons. Well, how to get better at drawing, I just draw pictures that I like and try to draw pictures that are hard to me. Like at sports, to get better, you go step by step. It's kind of the same because in art, you got to go step by step and you got to take your time in order for to learn it and to like really get it.
So as the kids and I had conversations like these, we began to understand why learning scientists draw important distinctions between deliberate practice and other related activities such as work or play or performance or rote repetition, which will not automatically improve a person's skill level. And as they talked about their own experiences with practice, whether it was doing their math homework or working on their skateboarding tricks endlessly, they had a very sharp eye for what kind of practice actually helped them get better and what kind didn't. We all could see that practice is not necessarily enjoyable, but we also saw that it has certain elements that make it effective, no matter what it is that you're learning. For example, every task you practice has got to have its own purpose. And that purpose has got to be geared to your individual needs. And it has to involve attention. Your attention and your focus has to be on it. That's why rote repetition usually doesn't count. It has to be repeated over and over again. And the timing of that repetition matters a lot. If all these things are present, then deliberate practice always leads to new learning. And that last point was one of the biggest things that the kids and I realized while we were investigating our central question: what does it take to get really good at something? At a fundamental level, we started to understand a concept that has the power to transform learning, no matter where that learning takes place. The better you get, the more you want to get better. So I'm going to end with a learning story that emerged in a desperately poor neighborhood of Chicago, where I interviewed a boy named Monty, whose passion in life was writing poetry. And one of his teachers found that out, and in what I think is a striking story of developing mastery, that teacher built Monty's passion for poetry into a new understanding about the dramatic structure of theater. Listen to Monty tell how it happened.
I was good at writing poems. He told me, like, combine poetry with playwriting, like, make up a topic, and put yourself in somebody else's shoes and make up a character. Then just go along with that. It was difficult because, like, I wasn't used to writing no plays. I'm just writing poems and just doing schoolwork. And then you explain it, like, poetry actually can be a play. Because if you're writing a whole poem, one stanza, that could be a piece of a play. You just add something else to it. Add stage direction, like what emotions you want the characters to have for saying that line. So like somebody reading your poetry, it's just in play terms.
Monty didn't stop with playwriting, though. He took yet another step, stretching his new understanding to get better at a new skill, the writing of essays.
Playwriting, because it made it easy for me to write essays for schoolwork. Like, I could have taken an idea, then combined it with another part, then it come out to one big essay. And then that's how I started writing my essays. Like, I started writing, and then I put a question in there, like, to get the reader attention, so they could, like, try to understand my point of view without saying my name or using I in the essay. Like, they think, oh, I know what this writer talking about, because he putting statements without making it seem like they're first person statements, and then he asking the question in the sentence. So
What's so remarkable about Monty's story? It's about the way that an adult saw beyond his school-bound failings. I wasn't used to writing plays. It's about listening for his voice and noticing the strengths that he had. It's about stepping outside the lesson plan to catch and fan a spark until it became a fire. It's a risk that Monty's teacher took. Perhaps you could call it an experiment. And it's also a risk that Monty himself took. Together, they built on his interests to construct a new story about what Monty might value and what he could succeed at. We could hear that new story in Monty's hesitant words, which reveal his pride in something transformational that can happen wherever youth and adults come together to learn. The better he got, the more he wanted to get better. I'll give the last word to a student from Oakland named Denise.
There are times where I sit with my parents at home and we reminisce on our life in El Salvador and my life now. They're very proud of me and we see the growth, and they're always reminding me that the saying that hard work does pay off is showing in you. And I was just like, you know, you're right. Just imagine when I'm 40, who knows where I'll be? You know, I think that vision or that future of me being 40 and where could I be is what's potentially driving me. It's that engine that's getting me to push harder and to want to progress more.
Thank you very much.